The 2026-2027 school year is here, so I had a quick moment to sit down with Dr. Andy Schoggin, the superintendent of the Clinton Public School District, to talk to him about something that a lot of people are abuzz about, and that is the attendance policy that has been passed by Senate Bill 2103 and the Mississippi Legislature. So we're here at the start of a school year. The first week under our belt has been pretty fine. Everything's been actually really great, a little bit better than fine. But one of the biggest concerns that have kind of been on the forefront of everyone's mind is the new implementation of a shift in the attendance policy that came from the legislature. Can you explain a little bit of what it is and how we're implementing it?
Yeah, I do think we've had a good start. We have our administrators and teachers have done just a great job of making sure we're taking care of kids the first week. We want to get them into class, get them acclimated, and have a strong start. And part of that is attendance. And this really is the shift from the enactment of the legislation that changed, and it started July 1st, which really puts some pressure on us to make sure we're following through with the protocols that we've got to do. I think the genesis of it is their attempt to curb some of the discussion around chronic absenteeism, and that's where students miss 10% of a year, or 18 days for us out of 180. And so it's an attempt to try to make certain our students are in school. And so I think that's where the legislation originated, and then from there, there's some things that we've got to change this year.
All right, so let's kind of, I guess, if we can do a comparison, let's do it like old English class. Let's do, contrast and compare. Going from what was to what is, what do parents need to be aware of going into the 26-27 school year that they're pretty much used to, but those shifts and changes are here?
Sure, we've always wanted students in school when we're in session, and I think parents understand that. But there are times that things happen with illnesses, with doctor appointments, with other things, and so with the shift, it's really we've really got to understand the 5 days and what that entails. So for the 5 days per semester, 3 of those can be excused with a parent note, with calling the school and letting them know. And those can be considered excused, or in the legislative term, lawful absences. Beyond those 3, the next 2 of those 5, anything beyond the first 3 require some type of medical documentation. If it's a follow-up at the orthodontist, if it's something where we're checking on sports injuries or any of those things, just make certain that you get that excuse so that we can say those, in terms of the legislation, those are lawful absences, and then we excuse those, and then students have the opportunity to also make up any missed classwork, work with their teachers to stay on track with their academics, and also in a timely manner. So part of the requirement for us is that upon return from that absence, within 2 days, that excuse is presented so that it can be considered lawful for us. Again, we want to try to follow what's written in the legislation to the best of our abilities, and understand that those are things that we've got to follow through on also.
So a lot of the worry is, well, what happens if I go beyond 5 absences? There's a mechanism there to kind of ensure that kids and parents are kind of taken care of in an appropriate manner. What is that mechanism?
So the authority, the superintendent or his designee, as part of the legislation, obviously my designee or our designee would be our building level administrators. If there's any extenuating circumstances beyond those 5, an extended medical absence, some of the other circumstances that would be allowed, but that's pretty limited in scope as well, so that I think the intent there is that it's not abused. I think they're trying to have a systematic way of schools reporting and making sure that following the same guidelines. But if there are extenuating circumstances beyond those 5 in a given semester, what I would say is communicate those with the building level administration. Some of those you'll know beforehand. If it's a pre-planned surgery, if it's a pre-planned things that you have that would meet some of these extenuating circumstances, communicate that up front as much as possible so those could be pre-approved, or if you have questions about it, if it would be approved. I think that's the biggest thing, is make certain we're communicating up front.
I do remember last year when the legislature was looking at absences from high-performing districts kind of in the middle, and then even those that were struggling, there was kind of a consistency about students missing for high school or official activities. Did they put anything into this law that addresses the absences for anything that is an official absence?
Yeah, that is addressed, and those are absences if I'm on a football team or a basketball team or a debate team or whatever I'm on a band competition. Those are official school absences. Those don't count into the amount that you have per semester. That's something we've done here always anyway. That won't be a change for us. I think a lot of us who have students who are involved in activities know it as a student school approved absence because of being on a team or in a club with a school approved official business. And so I'm not certain why that had to be legislated. Maybe there were other schools doing it differently. That's not going to be a real change for us, but it is part of the law.
And then finally, they've adjusted 3%. A lot of times when we hear about 3%, we think of a 3% raise, and that's a really good thing. But this 3% now is talking about the length of time that a student is present to be fully counted as fully present. What does the 66, 63% look like?
Yeah, it can look different. So at our elementary schools, it'll be pretty straightforward. It's the time of day that our schools start until the time of day our schools dismiss, and then 66% of that time. And what we'll try to do is share that time specifically so that parents are aware of what that would be for our elementary schools. When you get in secondary school and the high school, students' schedules differ. We have seniors who have senior release or delayed entry because of they've completed a lot of the requirements for graduation. And so it's very individualized there. If a student only has 2 classes on their schedule, then it's 66% of those 2 classes. And so it'll be a little different for that. And thinking that also the time you arrive factors into it. So if you come past a certain time in the morning, even though you may stay the remainder of the day, there's probably not a way to hit 66% of a school day. So just need to be aware of that. And again, we want to try to make sure we're taking care of our students and our families, but we also have some requirements we have to uphold. And so, when we're open, let's try to be here. I think our schedule helps with that. We have some extended breaks during the year, and so I know a lot of our families try to plan times away or other doctor visits during those times, and that's certainly appreciated because when we have them in classrooms, we certainly want to make sure we're pressing and they're getting the most benefit they can from being in class with our teachers.
Some people have the tendency, I know I can fall in this bucket, some people have a tendency to kind of worry a little prematurely about things. What kind of message, kind of closing out here, would you have to parents about this school year when they're worried about these simple just 5 absences?
Yeah, and again, think through the ability to communicate with our administrators. If there's something that's going to come up, have a conversation with them. Make sure that if there are things that can be approved prior to, I think that can help reduce some of that anxiety. Or if things come up last minute, that just because life happens, communicate. Make sure we're staying in touch, and then follow up if it is an emergency doctor's visit. Let's make sure we share those. The medical documentation, so that we can say that we're meeting the requirements of the law. I think we'll do as much as we can to help our families get through and understand it, but also know that we have some things that we're going to be held accountable for as well.